welcome back to Dear Diary, the Self-Love Podcast. I have a special guest today. I'm so excited to introduce this beautiful human that I have been blessed to have in my life. She came into my life at such a pivotal moment when I first began this self-love, growth, and healing journey. And she's been such a pivotal part of my evolution on this journey. It is the beautiful Lindsey Ruder. She is my coach, my friend, my mentor, my colleague. She's a lot of things to me. So I'm really excited to have her as my first guest. And I think I'm going to title, there's going to be two parts to this. So this is part one. Stay tuned for part two. But we're going to call this the Red Tent Roundtable because she's going to be back and we have lots to talk about. And Red Tent is her coaching practice. And I'm obsessed with her, and I hope you fall in love with her just as much as I have. She has a lot to say. She has a lot of passion and wisdom behind her voice and all that she has to say. She's been a huge, huge part of my most recent journey and evolution, really teaching me to step into my power and look inward instead of outward, because life is crazy. And the more that we get hooked onto external sources and peoples and energies and situations and stories, the more we lose ourselves, the more we lose our power, the more we give away our power to these situations. And then it leaves us feeling depleted and powerless and fearful and doubtful. And some would even say, questioning our safety. So I'm really excited to have her on the show. And I'm going to link all of her things in the show notes. This is really cool. I'm so excited for you guys to listen to this. So here we go. I wanted to do your bio for you. And in that process, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even do my own bio. How am I going to do someone else's bio like justice, right? And then I was just like thinking back on a relationship. We met during such a transformational time in both of our lives and such a vulnerable moment in both of our lives. And I think having that strong foundation, we've kind of like bonded off of that. We've built off of that. I'm like, how do I do that justice? So we'll see. But this is Lindsey Ruder. She is the sweet, loving, and beautifully verbose light worker and medicine woman. She travels the world. She dances with Mother Nature. She is the most beautiful example of self-liberation and sisterhood that I could think of. She's not afraid to ask the hard questions. She is a garden of wisdom and loving beauty. She's a certified coach of integrative health and nutrition and a transformation guide and facilitator of sacred women's circles. She is the embodied voice of wisdom, courage, and compassion. And to me, she is the symbol of inner peace and wisdom, and her beauty ripples outwards into the world and through the soil and the roots of this earth. She is the owner of the Red Tent Coaching, and I am so grateful and so honored to be chatting with her about all the things that we're going to talk about today.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome.
You're reminding me of that phrase I see so often that's prompting us to see ourselves through the eyes of someone who loves us. Because boy, do I love to hear myself described through your eyes. gives me so much to both aspire to and also to claim, to get comfortable with acknowledging.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Ah, I adore you. Okay, so thank you for being my first ever person to interview on the podcast. I started this podcast and I was like, I'm just gonna solo riff and I'm just gonna like do my thing, and I don't care if it makes sense, and I don't care if I, contemplate my sentences correctly or there's background noise or anything like that. And then as it sort of evolved, I'm like, oh, all of these guests that I can have, all of these women I can invite, and all of these conversations. And you were the first one that came to mind. And so after we wrapped up our recent coaching adventure together, I thought, what a beautiful time. Like, this is all fresh in both of our hearts and our minds and our souls. And so I thought it was divine timing to have you on and talk with you about your experience coaching me, what came up for you during our sessions, and just kind of what you received from the experience that we had together. But before we get into any of that, I want to, and I'm so excited that I get to do this. I want to be the podcast that anytime they have a guest, they always ask a question, like the same question, every guest. And so that question for me here on the Dear Diary podcast is, what does self-love mean to you?
Self-love. I'm trying to drop in to feel self-love so that I can answer that with some honesty. And I think that what self-love means to me is very aligned with a theme for a lot of my journey as an adult, which is this search for home. And I have a lot I could say about that search, but one of the things that has really been unfolding loudly the last couple of years is that home is not a place, and home is more of an experience, something that we can experience with our sensations, with our bodies. There's so many layers to it. And when I'm in self-love, it's like I feel the ultimate expression of home. Because as I said, like, home it's an experience. And I think the one that I named was probably born in my childhood, I'm guessing, right? And in the safest, most held moments, it's like to feel held, to feel safe, and to feel unconditionally loved, appreciated, okay. Like, unconditional being is what feels like love, and now I name as home. So often for me, a lack of self-love, which can show up in a lot of really hard ways, when I recognize that, it's like, what is the thing that keeps me from feeling okay as I am? Right? As opposed to a person experiencing self-love looks a certain way or is thriving in a certain way. And it's like, no, I think I can be my most loving towards self in my darkest shadows, in my hardest moments. And what a beautiful and courageous expression of love at that time, right? So yeah, self-love is home.
I feel that so deeply, which is probably one of the many reasons why we share such a special bond, because I did that course so long ago, it feels like forever ago, called Coming Back Home. And that's exactly what the theme was, just coming back home to yourself, that feeling of safety and empowerment and a deeper knowing that you forgot after all these years, after, all of the things you've been through and all of the things your mind tells you and your ego gets in the way of, and society and conditioning and all of that, just coming back home.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many influences at work on us, suggesting that we outsource love, that we source it from without. And I think like my inability to experience love fully and in this like all-encompassing way, I now understand is because I followed the directives, I followed the influences, and naturally, that's what we do, right? We're malleable beings. And so I always thought that I would be loved if I was lovable. So then my task, that I was charging myself with, both consciously and mostly unconsciously, was being lovable. And as we know, that's a near impossible task to succeed at, because what is lovable is so different for so many people. So it's like, talk about reading the room, right? And morphing and shifting and constantly accommodating outside dynamics. It's exhausting and feels impossible. And I would add another layer of insight to that that's more recent for me, which is that most people are so disconnected from their own love that it would be impossible for me to help them find it by just being something specific, right? Or projecting onto them what I think they want me to be. It can actually lead to a lot of confusion for both parties. Like, why can't I access the only thing that I'm working toward? And it's clear to me now it's because it's not outsourced. It can't be outsourced. When we experience love with another, it's like that connection is like spotlighting the love that lives inside of us. It's not something that comes from outside and is given to us, even though that's how we talk about it. I mean, we literally talk about love like it's a transaction. If you're worthy, you can receive it. If you're good at it, you can give it, right? For the right person, for the right thing. And it's like, no, like I am love. I'm literally made up of this amazing divine love. And the only reason I haven't always known that and acted from that place and lived from that place is because I forgot. There was a lot of stuff on top of it, burying it, getting in the way. And so I think to experience that fullness of love for self, and therefore to be able to do that and share it with others, is to be in my fullness, and to welcome what is there, whatever I find there, to love that
Yes.
in a way that I couldn't expect the outside world to do for me. It has to be me. I'm the best fit for the job.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned like welcoming whatever is there, right?
Mm,
Whatever's there, all the flavors.
yeah. Yeah, part of that conditioning, it's like we create ideas and story about what would make us lovable, what would make us good people, good partners, good parents. And then I think we project the ideas, we project that cerebral concept into our lives day after day. We chase it, we work so hard for it. And it's actually like what love is, and what love is needed, like how it is needed, is a truth that's only really available in the moment,
Yeah.
right? So if we take this story, we take the idea from the past and we keep dragging it with us, it's just so much energy used in a way that it most of the time can't be fulfilling, because it's not informed by what is. It could be informed by what was, It could be informed by some illusion that we're carrying, some kind of filter that we are seeing the world through that we're stuck in, you know?
Yeah.
So we have to peel that back. And when we do that, like what is there is typically not the picture of love that's been painted for us. So it can be scary, it can be really hard, and it's like it doesn't feel like the entryway to love in the way that we've been told about love. So we run. We're like, well, this isn't it. This is hard. This is messy. Makes people uncomfortable and they don't want to be around it. And it's like, yeah, and this is me in my fullness. These are all the parts of me that want to be loved. So maybe the world isn't ready yet, but I am. I can go there. I can be there in that discomfort, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it every time, because then when I step back into the world from that place, I don't need you to love me. I welcome you to. The love exchange is more free because it doesn't come from lack. It doesn't come from attachment, right? It's something that it belongs to me. It's my gift to share and also to receive from others when they have that. Because there's an infinite well, right? I mean, we're all love beings, we're all light beings. So it's like that to be able to dedicate ourselves to access for us and therefore for others is like the most worthy endeavor, that I could name. And it's one that most people aren't talking about, aren't aware of, aren't comfortable talking about, aren't sure if it's like real, right? It's so different than what we know.
Yeah. And we so often think of it as being selfish too,
Yeah.
which I think is a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The way we ask ourselves and one another to self-deny it's very fascinating when you really start to examine it more closely, because it's it's like if I can't invest in myself to fall in love with all of me, then how available could I possibly be for others? And how can my capacity for love be its fullest, right? If I can't even do it for me. And so it's like on the external, on the superficial level, it's like, well, love looks like this. We do for others, we care for others, we give. And that's what it looks like. Well, I mean, we've all heard you can't pour from an empty cup. We know this, right? And yet we try over and over because that's the story of love that we've been shown. And I can definitely say with confidence, with clarity, that when I have a more full love for myself and acceptance for myself, the way that I show up in the world, it's like those reaching arms, those tethers that are like, I need love, I want love, right? Like they're not there. And yet the feedback that I receive is that the love feels so much more accessible than when I'm trying to do it, than when I feel like I have to or I need to. And so I've gotten that affirmation enough times, it just feels very alive for me. We're past the point of theory now, and I know for me, like I come from a lot of lack, and I've had a long journey in this body. I mean, I say long, the majority of my journey in this body has been with a lack of confidence, a lot of insecurity. And I can't even describe really that feeling of not needing, not craving, and being so attached to what the world can give me to affirm me, that even if it's just, a minute or two of feeling myself whole and not needing it from anywhere else, it's so magnificent. It's such it feels like liberation to me. I mean, I like that word, and I aspire to that always. Now, I don't live in that state. I certainly don't live in that state. But like I said, when I access it, when I can be there, I know that's where I'm headed. And I know that that's where I need to be, so that I don't have to manipulate the world to feel loved.
Yeah,
Because,
it's powerful.
yeah, it hasn't worked out so well to
Yeah.
try to manipulate the world to access love.
Yeah. It's exactly like what you said. When you are we're searching for love in external sources, they are not often capable of even loving themselves or knowing how to love themselves. So how on earth would you think that they would know how to love you? It doesn't work that way. And the same
Exactly.
goes for us, right? For our loved ones. It's that age old cliche of like, you have to put your oxygen mask on first in order to save another human. You have to learn how to love yourself in order to really and truly know how to love another human.
Right. Yeah, I did share this. I'm not sure if you have seen it, but Eisen did a little talk the other day on social media about how it is not possible to save or fix someone and respect them at the same time.
Mm.
And before he said that statement, he said, I want you all to be prepared. Most of you are going to be triggered by this. And he was absolutely right for me. And I've watched a couple of folks take in this video since then. And it's really hard. It's really hard because I think that most of us, and especially women, we identify as caretakers. We identify as nurturers. We have this longing to be the great mother and to be this source of nourishment for our loved ones, for our tribe, right? And in that role, getting we'll call it just messy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can be a nurturing being, but if that nurturing is only something that goes out, it's not something that I know how to do for myself, then it's fragmented. And usually when we get used to that lopsidedness, I'm used to it going out and not coming in, well, there's going to be self-depletion, right? That becomes an unsustainable role to identify with. But the other thing that is really clear to me now is that when I'm doing that, when it's become out of balance, I'm not doing it for me, I'm just trying to do it for the world around me, it's because I need something from them. I perceive that I need something from them. And the only way that I will get it is to help them see how to be that for me. So most of my selflessness that I have displayed in my life has actually been rooted in my deepest selfish needs, my lack. But I wasn't conscious of that. So I could tell myself a story. I could identify as a selfless person, someone who just cares about everyone else. I just want everyone else to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's, well, and I use the word self-denial, and I'd love to actually stay here for a second because this feels really juicy to me right now. It's like, if I need you to be something for me, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be aware of that. Usually I'm just going to notice that you could be better. Like, oh, Amanda, I see her. She always does this thing, and I see these patterns. And if she could just be like this, and I could help her, right? So there's something about that completely disempowers the people we want to help, because it's like we don't see their deepest desires. We don't try to extract the deepest aspects of them and bring them out to be in full fruition. We stay with what we think it can be, our limited perspective, right? And they are their greatest authority. They know their deepest truth. They know their deepest wounding. So it's like, if we just let it be our projection about what they need, then we've limited ourselves and we've limited them. And
Yeah.
we've also bypassed the most effective way to make change, which is from within, right? So sometimes we are motivated to change for other people. And I think that that can be noble. I think we all want it to be really noble. The thing is, it's like, if I can connect to my love for you, and that motivates how I move through our dynamics and how I move through the world, then that can be a pure expression of love. And I can change things about myself or what I'm doing because I want to connect to that love more consistently. But that's really different, than changing because you think it's the only way to be lovable, which hurts. It hurts my heart to even say those words because they're too close to home, and they're also too common in our collective experience. And I know that there's a psychological, I'm not a psychologist, but there is a psychological component to this, because it's actually easier on us, especially when we're children, to believe that we're not lovable, and that there's something about us that we can change to be more lovable, because that is way easier to accept, to literally like bring into our being, than to think that someone doesn't love us, like someone that, like a caretaker, like an important figure in our life. If we thought that they didn't love us, it could just literally kill us, kill our soul, like kill our little spirits. And so it's like our systems, our body, our nervous system is all trying to protect us. And so it translates that disconnect, that lack of love, to, well, you just have to be different. And as soon as you do that, you'll have it. You'll have what you need. And that's a strong force of nature, right? Because when our nervous system gets involved, so it can be very convincing that this is about survival. This is about being okay or not. So it can take a lot of really deep inner work to go in there and work with the nervous system and say, we've always been lovable. We've always been loved. We have to remember now. And when we don't feel it, that doesn't threaten our okayness. It may just mean that the person, the dynamics around us, it's just not available. It's not there. So we self-source, and we have to be able to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's like insert defense mechanisms. That is where they are born, right? The parts of us that we needed to change and mold and shift because our loved ones were not attuned to our needs, or their needs for that matter. Right? And it's not blaming anybody, but yeah, that's the breaking down of a defense mechanism, and the remembering that we were actually perfect, and the things that we thought we needed to change to receive love, they were just there to protect us, and they don't really belong to us.
And think about how that plays out over time, because if we keep maneuvering and pivoting to be the thing that we think is lovable, and we still don't access love because it's not available there, or a person doesn't know how to open, they don't have the capacity, and our capacity has not been exercised. So we can fail, and I'm putting that in quotations, right? But that's how it feels. When we fail to access love, then how detrimental to our sense of self. Like, I'm doing everything, I've given myself to loving and being loved by this person, by this world, and it's not working. What is wrong with me? Right? And so in that exact moment where we need to come back home, it's so easy to swing the other way and just feel inadequate, and just feel like reaching for more and more to make us lovable. Maybe if I was more beautiful, maybe if I was more successful, right? Maybe if I was funner to be around, and now we're contorting, we're trying to be something that we're not, and we lose any semblance of connection to our authentic self that was there, and it gets buried even deeper. So it is a self-perpetuating cycle, and it's a toughie. It's a tough one to break, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We lose our essence in that process.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that, I wavered back and forth. I'm like, is that really a cliche question to ask? But you answered it beautifully, and it opened up some beautiful conversation of what it means to you to love yourself. But I think the collective can agree and really resonate with this answer, because we've all experienced it, and we're all just trying to come back home.
Well, first I'm giggling because I'm like, wait, did you ask me a question? But yes, the self-love question. Yes. And actually, I think that's a beautiful one, because I would love to hear anybody's response to that question. It really gives us an idea of where do we look to experience love.
Yeah.
We have a lot to learn about that right now, because it has to change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many crises on our hands collectively right now that I think it's safe to say that we're not thriving. We haven't got it all figured out. And there's absolutely an absence of love being expressed, being liberated for us all. So yeah, it's time. It's time to do it differently. And I would love to hear where people are starting from. So please keep asking that question.
Good. I absolutely will. So my first official question for you, and it's a super loaded one, so you can chunk it down as much or as little as you want. But I'm curious to know. I guess let me hold on. Let me backstory this. So I came to Lindsey in a moment, in a season of my life where I was, what I felt was like deep rooted in lack of control, lack of self-confidence, fight or flight. I don't know what to do. My relationship is crumbling. The safety and security of my being felt compromised. And I was like, hey, I need your help. Throw me a bone, throw me a lifeline, throw me a raft. I don't know what to do here. I am investing in my future and myself and my growth and healing. And I don't think I can handle it. And I don't feel safe where I'm at. And my environment feels like it's imploding on me. And I just need you to guide me through the woods so that I don't crash into a fucking tree.
Mm.
And I feel that that was a pretty big ask. That was a pretty tall order, like, hey, can you save me? Basically. And so, and you did a beautiful job. I will say that. But I'm curious to know, what was your experience like when I came to you with this request of, hey, my life is in the shitter and I need you to help me fix it?
Mhm. Yeah. That's fun. That's a fun question, because I can remember the layers of response that I had, and it wasn't clean and simple, right? So the first layer that I remember was I felt the magnitude of, well, like you're calling it your ask, right? It's like what you were presenting. I felt the magnitude of that. I knew it was big, which stands out to me. And I will also say that typically by the time someone comes to me and is ready to invest in themselves and invest in working with me, they usually are at the point where things do feel like they have that much magnitude, like they do have that much power to them, and it's just time, like it has to be. So I won't say that's uncommon, but it doesn't change the fact that it really it has a flavor, it's a, so I think that when I felt the magnitude, there's this automatic, and this, I think this is part of my conditioning, there's this automatic feeling of, I can't screw this up. I don't want to dishonor her in any way. This is a pivotal moment for her. I want to offer her the best of me and the best of my coaching. And what that wish inside of me, that thing that I'm like, this is how we're going to navigate this, is from this place. Like, where that then led me to was to, oh, I'm not going to fix, I'm not going to solve, I'm not going to be responsible. I don't have an agenda. There's not a direction or a trajectory that I know right now I'm going to send her on. And now I just have to get her there. None of that is happening. Instead, I'm going, wow, this is so important. And she's the one. She is the master of her life. And she's the one who is going to tell us how this is going to go. And I felt thrilled to be able to help pull that out of you, help show you that, with the understanding that I was going to learn as we went. You were going to be showing me too. I was just going to keep us on track. I was going to keep us in integrity and give us the accountability, right, that we both needed to navigate so much. Like you said, there's a lot of energies present, and some of them were very uncomfortable. You said lack of safety, like that is not to be brushed aside. Like that's a big experience to be having. And so yeah, I think that I had that automatic knee jerk, like, whoa, like we do anytime someone that we care about is feels compromised, right, in some way. And as soon as I felt that, it was like a green flag for me, like, oh, well, she's coming, she's ready, and I can't wait to see where she's ready to go. So let's do this. And so we started, and you did, like, you led the journey. I just made sure there was a journey. Like, I just made sure, like, we weren't gonna say, never mind, this is too hard, and like set it aside.
I changed my mind.
Yeah, because that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I on a personal level share that all the time. And we were just talking about that earlier today, where it's like, when we are only accountable to self, like that requires vigilance. It requires like a longevity, a consistency and a level of awareness that most people would just opt for the one and done. It's just easier. So I think a lot of the reasons we reach out to therapists and coaches and guides is because we need that accountability. We want to make sure, and we're not sure we can do it for ourselves. And that's legit. That's totally legit, because if we've not been given any of these tools or resources to date, and we've been here 30, 40, 50 years, like, it's okay that we want a little bit of support while we're filling our tool belt, right? While we're learning how to practice these things and make them practical in our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like we have all of these tools and we know all the things, right? Like, I know the things to do. I have the resources, I have the tools. However, the accountability for that and the knowing that I have somebody to act as a mirror for when I do get in my shit, and also a guide, a mentor, a leader to say, hey, I know this is hard and I know this is scary, but you're okay, and you're going to be okay, and you're doing it. And and even, yes, it's good to have a coach for a situation like this where I'm in the shit and I need help out. But it's also a beautiful opportunity for when I see myself out of it, for somebody to be there to celebrate with me, like you did. Like, hey, like, you're doing it. You reached out. That's the first step.
Yeah.
You knew you couldn't do it alone. You didn't want to do it alone. Not that I couldn't do it alone, it's that I didn't want to do it alone. And I really wanted to resource my tools that I had already had in a really effectful and powerful way that I wasn't able to do alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I talk so much about perspective, right? Because I always have this image of like, there's a circle, and in the center of that circle is the thing in life that's presenting. Maybe it's a challenge or obstacle we're facing, or, something that we're looking forward to or trying to create. When we're standing on our circle somewhere and we're looking at the thing in the center, we have the perspective from that place. And most of the time, what's missing when we're feeling stuck, when we feel like we can't make the change that we're aspiring to, is all that's needed is a shift in perspective. Because now we have new information. Now we have new resource to draw from to make this change. And so, like, for example, if someone was, I'm just going to make this up, I'm not using you here, but if I feel stagnant in my relationship, let's say, and I feel like some kind of creative change is needed, like we have to mix this up. It's stale, it's stagnant. And I'm working with my coach and we're talking about creativity. Maybe I'm working with my creative centers in my body and I'm doing some breath work there or some movement to activate there. And somehow the relationship dynamic hasn't had a lot of profound change. If I'm working with my coach, they can highlight to me that, but you have started these creative endeavors over here in your life, in how you're parenting and how you do your business and how you create your physical space. So you are enlivening this creative energy and connecting to it. And now you'll be able to integrate that more into your relationship challenges or into this perceived stuckness. And so that perspective can be offered by a coach, right? And back, we're seeing it. Hey, you're not even aware that you are enlivening this over here. Because again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We project so much from the mind that we're like, well, here's my problem. The solution would be this. Like, my relationship will feel better, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a temporary experience, right? Something feeling good or bad is always going to be temporary. What we want is more perspective, more resources to draw from, more empowerment. And so that is going to express, and it's not usually not going to express at all the way that we projected it would look like. And that doesn't, it doesn't take away from the success at all. I want to step back a second to your question, because I was just remembering, and like for our listeners, like Amanda and I, we're colleagues, we're friends, right? We have the coaching relationship. She mentioned all these, and as a, having a friendly perspective before we started working together, I had heard her say to me how everybody wants to just tell me what to do with this important dilemma in my life. Like you're either doing this or you're doing that, right? Which is it going to be? And it's like, however they're influencing you, however they're trying to come in and be supportive, it's like they're pushing you to one way or the other. And you told me that you were not interested in that being the question that's asked. And so when you asked me to work with you around this dynamic and we started, I knew that was true for you. And how that translated for me was, I cannot wait to remind her that of all of her fullness, of all of her divinity, of all of her magic and her power, separate from that dynamic. Because when she can own that, when she can reconnect to that, then the dynamics and the challenges begin to take care of themselves. I don't know if I like that phrase, but we begin to take care of them in a way that we couldn't have done before. And so that was the task that I felt was mine, was to remind you of that, because then I knew you would make the decisions that were aligned for you. And if I had started from a place of, well, I know what she needs to do, then I think we would have been really limited on our journey, because it would have always been about me trying to get to where I think I'm right. and that may or may not work for you, but either way, it's not probably the ultimate expression of your medicine, because that lives in you.
Absolutely. I think that brings up a beautiful perspective or example of how powerful coaching is. I didn't come to you for advice. I didn't come for you to tell me one way or another, or give me your opinions, or direct me or guide me a certain way through the woods. I wanted you to help me not bump into the trees while I was walking through the woods on my own path. And I think that shows the power of coaching. It also shows the power of knowing what the fuck you need. And I knew that I didn't need that. And I knew that that was me setting my intention on this journey of like, I don't really know what I need. Let me rephrase that. I don't really know what I need, but I know that I don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that shows your power as a coach because we often, as coaches, you and I know, we have people that come to us and they're like, my husband does this, my boyfriend does this, my job is this, my relationship is this, my partner does this, my kids do that, like all external, right? This makes me feel like shit. This I don't want to participate in. This makes me lose my power. And it's all external. And our job as coaches is to bring them back home, right? What we talked about from the get-go, bring them back home. It has nothing to do with all of these external sources. Doesn't mean that it's not taking away from them, right? These situations may be hard and they do suck, but you got to come back home. And that's where the magic is. That's where the change happens.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because if I'm starting from a place where, and I think we all probably do this a lot in our relationships. So, like, let's pay attention here. Like, if I am with a loved one and I see their patterns, I see their choices, and I'm like, what they're doing is wrong and this would be better for them, and I'm stuck in that, like, kind of circling back to what Eisen was saying the other day. It's like, literally, when I'm with them, I'm connecting to their lack. And let me make sure I'm clear about that. The lack lives in me, and I'm identifying it in them.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not them. So I don't know if they feel lack or not. That's how I know that's mine. So I'm in my perception of lack. I see what they are not. I see what is missing, right? The void. That's my focal point. And I want to help from that place. What if I see that person as I'm smiling because I have all these images, but I see their potentiality. I see their divinity. I see that they are they are just as sacred and holy to me as I am, as that tree is, as the moon is, right? As the most magical experiences I've had in my life. Like, all of that potential exists everywhere all of the time. So it becomes my responsibility to steward that. And so it's not that natural. It's not natural. And again, it always points back to, like, who taught us to do this? No, people told us, like, depending on our upbringing, right? I'm sure we have a diverse audience here, but, like, I know for me, I was told exactly how to be good. Yeah. Right? From the church's perspective, from the teacher's perspective, from the parents' perspective, I knew what I needed to do, right? It was never about sourcing that from within. So now it makes sense, right? That we're always looking outside for someone to tell us, and also that we think other people need to hear it from us. So most of us missed the conditioning where someone said, look inside, go in, find your answers right there. And so it's we just really miss the mark when we are seeing someone in that way. And I think because it's so common, it feels important to point out, well, what do we do then? What do we do when we find ourselves always wanting to change someone that we know we love, right? And I would say you go find that mirror. So whether it's it's a person, right? A physical mirror. I'm sitting here. I actually have my mirror next to me, and I've been doing a lot of mirror work lately. But it actually, right? You can look in that mirror. You can see parts of yourself that you may have been avoiding, right? But either way, you go and find what part of you needs that person to be different. And if you can give attention to that part of you, then I promise you it will change the dynamic between you and them, and what passes between you, because now I'm not interacting with you from my lack. I went in and I tended to my lack, and now that feels more soothed for the time being, right? You got the whack-a-mole, like you said.
The practice over and over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm, that's
And
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, it's just it gives me so much hope too for love, and like divine union is that's the catchphrase that's so hot right now. And boy, I certainly don't want to learn about that. I don't want to outsource that information. So I don't want to learn about that from my dating. I don't want to learn about that from other couples or anything. I want to learn about how to source that from within and bring that to the world, and then match frequencies, right? Find the others who are doing the same, and be there, and model it for the world, and share that energy in the world so that it can grow, because that's what I believe one of the things that our planet really needs, right, is our ability to be sovereign.
Yeah.
To be sovereign and to know love without outsourcing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I agree wholeheartedly. And I know when I came to you, I think it was like, I don't know, maybe into our first call. And I was like, I had a oh shit moment where I was like, oh, she's gonna make me, oh wait, we're gonna have to like flip this coin. Oh wait, no, this isn't about the situational stuff. This isn't about all the external stuff. Like, she's gonna make this about me. Oh, whoa, okay. All right. Buckle my seatbelt.
Right.
Here we go.
Because you were both like put off by everybody trying to make you make the same decision that they wanted for you. You were put off by it, but you also had learned to navigate it, right?
Yes.
It's what you were used to. So I like to hear that reflection now. You're like, oh no, it's gonna be different.
Oh, here we go. She's gonna make me see my shit.
I am.
And there you have it. There's the beautiful Lindsey Ruder. Oh gosh. Yeah, when I came to her, I had no idea what to expect. I just knew that I needed support. I knew that I wanted this journey to be different. I wanted to really feel and embody this like inner strength that I knew that I had, but all of those external circumstances just weighed so heavily on me. And when I came to her with that big ask, I knew that there was going to be magic that came from that, from the energies that we shared together, from our calls, from her coaching guidance. And I knew she was the right person for the job, no matter how difficult it was going to be for me to face my shit and realize that sometimes we tell ourselves these stories, and that's just it. They're stories, and the real power lies within ourselves. And so she took me on that beautiful journey. Stay tuned for part 2, where we talk a little bit more about that. I'm so excited. I hope you love her just as much as I do. And I hope you take the words of what she said today and really just like relish in them for the rest of your day and on this journey. And we'll see you next time for part 2.